Hey gang, thanks for joining us for another episode of Chicken Skin Moments with Pastor Dain, when I find cool stuff in the Bible and I share it with you. Today I'm going to share something really cool with you. I call it the 11th Commandment. Oh yeah, you're going to like this one a lot, but I got to back up a bit. When I was young in the faith, there was two things I really didn't understand very well. One was sort of the entire Old Testament, and the other was the concept of grace. Let me explain. When I first began looking into the Old Testament, man, it was this funky old book with crazy stories about this God who seemed to get upset a lot at his people. Like he would have them, try to serve them. They'd of course fail, they'd go, and then bad things would happen to them, And I just always sort of struggled with, he doesn't sound like a very nice God. Can I just stick with the New Testament? I think I like Jesus a lot better. Which, by the way, was an early heresy, but we'll get into that some other time, yeah? But I began to feel that way. And then one day, a good friend of mine really did a good job of explaining grace to me. Now, let me explain this. Grace meaning God's lavishing us with the gift of forgiveness, with nothing that we could ever do good enough to please him, but we didn't have to try to please God because he was already pleased with us. And all we really had to do was believe in God and receive his forgiveness. Now, I will tell you, that didn't really jibe well with this God of the Old Testament. And then one day, somebody said to me something interesting. Well, you should read the Old Testament with eyes of grace. And man, I got to tell you, I had to chew on that one. I found it to be really true. And let me explain it to you right now. First of all, most every religion in the world except Christianity teaches what we call works righteousness. In other words, you have to do good to be accepted or forgiven or received or blessed by God. So even pagan idols, you have to sacrifice some things so that God won't be mean to you. Or, you could boil it all the way down to, have you ever heard people that are like, I'm not religious, but you just have to be a good person? Or the idea that good people go to heaven. That's all declared works righteousness, and it's a total never-ending nightmare because you never are good enough, and you know it deep in your heart. Grace, on the other hand, is simply this. I understand I'm not good enough. I believe that God has made a way for me by his son Jesus Christ through faith, and because of that faith, God says, I am saved. In fact, that's exactly what Paul says in Ephesians. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, not through works, but through faith. And even that is not of yourself. It is the gift of God. Now, how can we take that idea of grace and then read the Old Testament with eyes that see grace? Well, first of all, you begin to see it in places you didn't expect it. Like, did you see this? In Genesis, all the way back in Genesis, it says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. In other words, he just believed God, and he was declared righteous, not for all the amazing things he did, and he did some pretty amazing and very obedient things, but Abraham was very, very far from perfect. He did a lot of really wrong things as well, but through believing in God, he was declared righteous. That's one little hint. Then I also want to say, in the global perspective, all through the Old Testament, even when Israel was failing and running away from God and doing all kinds of foul, evil things, and they were bearing the punishment because of that, God constantly promised in Scripture, I'm going to come get you. I'm going to redeem you. I'm going to fix you. I'm going to save you. There is a time coming where I will redeem all of Israel. So the promises of being saved by grace are all through the Old Testament. But I want to wrap up today with a really cool one I call the 11th Commandment, because I'll bet you have never thought of this. Just think of the 10 Commandments. Most people start in Exodus chapter 20, which is where the 10 Commandments are, and they jump right to verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make any idols and worship them. Thou shalt be good is basically, what most people think of. Now, when you read the 10 Commandments through classic works righteousness eyes, what you see is, if I do these 10 things, then I will be a good person, and then I can get into heaven, or then God will like me, or God will bless me. But did you realize that's not how Exodus chapter 20 starts? most people skip Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 and 2. And this is actually what it says. It starts like this: I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Now I need to back up a bit, because Egypt was a picture of sin. Egypt was a picture of death, and that's why it was always encased in slavery. God redeemed Israel through the blood of a lamb, which we all know is a picture of Jesus Christ, brought them through the Red Sea, which is a picture of being baptized, into the quasi-promised land. It's a picture of salvation. So do you understand that how the Ten Commandments actually begins with the commandment, and this is a very smart friend of mine explained it to me, it's part of the Ten Commandments, of saying what God has already done for Israel. He has already saved them, rescued them. And the idea is this: it's the same concept of grace. You are saved in belief that God has already saved you, right? And now you live out this life, John 10:10, life and abundant life, of righteousness. And what that does is it makes the Ten Commandments not a requirement for salvation. Are you ready for this? But the fruit of salvation. In other words, beginning from your saved state, God says, now let me show you how to live out this abundant and righteous life that will go much better for you if you pay attention to these Ten Commandments. But it was never a qualifier for salvation. It was always a lived out salvation. I bet you didn't know that's how the Ten Commandments starts, with an explanation of God saying, I've already saved you. Isn't that amazing? The 11th commandment. And that's what it means to read the Old Testament through the eyes of grace. Hey gang, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, write your congressman, whatever you got to do. But thanks for watching the video. You're going to want to check out this next video as well. And other than that, we'll see you next time. God bless.